Hi everyone, my name is Amber Burt and I'm going to talk to you about honeybees today. By definition, honeybees are winged insects that collect nectar and pollen, produce wax and honey, and live in large communities. What's not included in the basic Google definition of a honeybee is the fact that honeybees are pollinators of hundreds of economically and ecologically important crops. Honeybees contribute over $14 billion to the United States economy. They also enable the production of over 90 commercially grown crops in North America. Bees produce roughly $150 million in honey annually. However, there is a huge problem. The population of honeybees has been significantly decreasing for more than 3 decades. This problem needs to be addressed to ensure the sustainability of our current food production system. In the 1940s, there were roughly 6 million managed honeybee colonies. In 2015, there were only about 3 million managed colonies. Many crops are heavily dependent on commercial pollination, therefore a reduction in the honeybee population poses a real threat to domestic agriculture. There are several causes to this population decline, one being the introduction of the external parasite mite in 1987. These mites feed on the blood of honeybees until they die. Another factor that is causing population decreases is colony collapse disorder, which is when a colony experiences rapid loss of worker bees. They have excess brood in the hive, and only a small cluster of bees remain around the queen bee. The reason or cause of this is still unknown and being researched to this current day. However, the portion of losses directly caused by colony collapse disorder has been decreasing over the last 4 years. So I wondered, if colony collapse disorder has been causing fewer losses over the last 4 years, why hasn't the honeybee population increased at all? This question led me to further research into the causes of population decline, and I found that honeybees are struggling to survive through the winter season. Since 2006, beekeepers have seen colony loss rates increase to an average of 30% compared to previous loss rates of 10 to 15 during the winter season. This increase in overwintering loss rate is caused by a combination of stressors, ranging from lack of natural forage material during the spring and summer season, such as clover and fruit trees, to mite infestations and disease, loss of genetic diversity, and exposure to certain pesticides. So with this background knowledge, I decided to pose the question, what are the effects of breed, location within the hive, and time of year on the effectiveness of honeybees preparing for the winter season? I chose 2 different breeds of honeybees. The first and most popular commercial stock in the United States, the Italian bee. I chose the Italian honeybee because they are known for their extended periods of brood rearing, which is the reproduction and growth of honeybees. This extended period allows the colony population to be built up during nectar flow, allowing bees to collect nectar during the entire spring and summer season. The second honeybee I chose in this experiment was the Russian honeybee. These bees were brought to the United States with the purpose of genetically improving mite resistance in managed honeybee stocks, and so far they have. I used standard Langstroth hives for all 4 colonies. The picture on the left shows one of the hives before the experiment began, and the picture on the right shows all 4 hives in the bee yard. During transportation, honeybees are contained in a wooden box with screened sides and a tin can filled with sugar water and a queen cage. The queen cage is separated from the hive so all of the worker bees and drones can get used to their scent. Once the introduction is over, the queen cage is set in between 2 frames, and it's the worker bee's job to eat the candy to free her. Time was the second independent variable in my experiment. All of the colonies were established on the same day, which was June 25th. Each wooden box was labeled with the breed, and each hive was pre-labeled, so it was known which box was going to which hive on introduction day. The third and final independent variable in my experiment was location within the hive. By this I mean the given frame inside of the hive. Honeybees start working from center frames before moving to outer ones. So to give a visual, I made this diagram to represent the frames in my hive from left to right. It is clear that frames 4 and 5 are the center frames, therefore I predict honeybees will start working on these 2 before the rest. The subscripts for the first independent variable are R for Russians and I for Italians. The capital C in all my hypotheses represent the percentage of honeycomb filled. I hypothesize that if Russian and Italian colonies are established on the same day, then Russian bees will have a greater percentage of honeycomb filled than Italians. The null hypothesis states that if Russian and Italian colonies are established on the same day, then there will be no difference in the percentage of honeycomb filled. The subscripts represent the second independent variable, time, measured as the number of days from introduction on June 25th, or day 0, until the last inspection on November 1st, day 129. I hypothesize that if an inspection is conducted once a month, then the percentage of honeycomb filled will increase with each inspection. The null hypothesis states that if an inspection is conducted once a month, the percentage of honeycomb filled will not change from previous inspections. The subscripts for this hypothesis represent frame location within the hive, left to right, 1 through 8. I hypothesize that starting with frame number 1, the percentage of honeycomb filled would increase until frame number 4, and then the percentage would decrease until frame 8. The null hypothesis states that it doesn't matter which frame in the hive, the percentage of honeycomb filled will remain the same. All of the hives were open once or twice a month for inspection. Each inspection was conducted by 2 people, myself and my dad. I took the pictures of the frames and my dad held them. The frames used had 6,800 outlines of cells. With the pictures taken during the experiment, I counted the unoccupied cells and then subtracted that number from 6,800, and then with that number I divided it by 6,800 and multiplied it by 100, which gave me the percentage of honeycomb filled for each frame. The data collected was put into Excel to calculate the averages and standard deviations, and an ANCOVA was run because the data met the assumptions. This graph shows breed of honeybee on the x-axis and the average percentage of honeycomb filled on the y-axis. Each hive progressed at a slightly different pace. However, the average percentage of honeycomb filled for the two colonies of both Russian and Italian honeybees was very close. The average for the 2 Italian hives was 31.8, and the average for the Russians was 35.4. The standard deviations for both sets was also very close, with Italians 40.6 and Russians 41.3. This makes sense because there is going to be a high variation with a large data set from the 2 separate honeybees in all 4 hives. The ANCOVA gave a p-value of 0.116 for breeds, therefore the different breeds did not have a significant effect on the percentage of honeycomb filled, and the null hypothesis failed to be rejected. The average percent of honeycomb filled was also calculated for each inspection. On the graph, the x-axis is time measured in days from inspection, and the y-axis represents the average percent of honeycomb filled. A positive linear relationship between time and percentage of honeycomb filled can be seen. As time increased, the percentage of honeycomb filled increased. The average percentage of honeycomb filled for all 4 hives at the last inspection on day 129 was 53.8%. The ANCOVA generated a p-value of less than 2 to the negative 16 for the independent variable time. Therefore, time had a significant effect on the percentage of honeycomb filled, allowing the null hypothesis to be rejected. The x-axis represents frame within the hive, and the y-axis represents percentage of honeycomb filled. The line shows a bell curve peaking at frames 4 and 5. At frame 4, the average percent of honeycomb filled was 69%, and frame 5 it was 77%. The ANCOVA gave a p-value of less than 2 to the negative 16 for frame location. Therefore, the frame within the hive did have impact on the percentage of honeycomb filled, allowing the null hypothesis to be rejected. My experiment faced a few uncontrollable situations, which I established the 4 hives 5 days after the official start of the summer season. This is not ideal because the bees miss the entire spring season, which was high nectar and pollen flow. However, this was not by choice. The first set of honeybees arrived on May 2nd, 2016. When the package of honeybees was picked up from the post office, it was opened and almost 50,000 bees were dead. Each wooden box contains 10,000 bees roughly, and more than half of these bees in each box were dead. The cause of this awful situation is still unknown. The supplier was contacted and new bees were on the way, but they did not arrive until June 25th. The surviving honeybees from the first set were established in a new hive to let their population be built up. Although the breed of honeybee did not have a significant impact on the percentage of honeycomb filled, the observations noted through the experiment made it possible to assume that the two sets of Russians were more effective at preparing for the winter season. One major observation noted during multiple inspections were wasp nests found on empty frames in both of the Italian hives. This indicates the colony was not strong enough to fight off any intruders. It was also noted during inspection whether there were a visible number of larvae developing on each frame. This is an important observation to make because if you can visibly see there's a good amount of larvae on the frame, you can assume that the queen bee is doing her job. I could see more larvae on the frames of the Russian hives, so I knew that their queen was strong and their population was being built up faster. The time at which my experiment was run did significantly impact the percentage of honeycomb filled. However, I do believe that the first set of honeybees were not dead upon arrival. They would have had more time to collect nectar and honey for the winter than my second set did. It is extremely important with the current declining honeybee population to make sure when beekeepers establish new hives, they give them enough time to prepare for the winter season. A good colony should have at least 3 seasons to prepare for the winter. If a hive is not prepared for the upcoming winter season, it faces the possibility of not surviving. Honeybees are facing the problem of population decreasing over the winter season, so it is extremely important for local beekeepers and international beekeepers and everyone in between to realize this problem is not only about honeybees, but it's about our food source. Honeybees are responsible for every third bite of food we take a day. We need to save the honeybees because there's no other insect in the world that can contribute such a great amount of food that humans intake daily. I'd like to give a special thanks to my dad for inspiring me to do this project, teaching me everything I know about honeybees, and I'd also like to thank Mr. Dutton for meeting with me almost every week and answering my endless questions. Thank you, everyone.